start, I need to kneel and pray. Heavenly Father, you know that I'm a man with unclean lips, and I live in a world of unclean lips. You know that I have a deceitful heart. My heart's desire right now is that what I say today gives light only on you and not on me. So please hold back the man and let your light shine. I ask you this in your Son's name. Amen. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you. And I got some guests that showed up at the last minute. I really appreciate you being here too. Thank you. Well, I want to start by introducing myself. What I used to back in the day was, my name is Raymond Lopez, and I'm an alcoholic. And my sobriety date is February 4th, 1989. So it's been 30 years since I haven't had a drink, and it's by the grace of God that I get to stand here and tell you that. Because as the old man that helped me to stay sober said, if you got what you deserve, Raymond, you wouldn't be here. So I know that it's God. And I also know that He saved me for something. I'm supposed to be doing something, which is one of the great gifts that I got from sobriety. I got a second chance on life. And what I do with this life is my gift to God. Well, I come from a long line of alcoholics. My great-grandfather died in the town drunk. My mother died an alcoholic, and then I became an alcoholic. And one of the things that came out is that I said is, I have this thorn in my side, and it's called pride and ego. And that pride and ego always flares up really bad when I got to drinking. And just to prove to you that I was an alcoholic, what I used to do is when I would drink, I could not stop. You know, I was 16 years old when I started drinking, and that first euphoria, I chased that thing for the next 17 years. I was 16 years old when I got my first drunk, and I never could acquire the euphoria ever again. I got trouble, but never had any happiness out of it. Because alcohol became the most important thing in my life, I was willing to give up a marriage, a construction company, and all the way to the end. I remember I used to tell people that I was the man of my house, you know, and I was. I was the man of my house all the way out the front door when I was asked to leave. And I was devastated when I was asked to leave. So I asked my wife at the time, why do you want me to leave? She goes, we can't live with you the way that you are. And I said, well, I'm not doing anything, I just drink. She said, yeah, but you don't stop. And so I tried stopping, and I couldn't, but I didn't have God in my life. There wasn't anything that could help me do this. So I couldn't do it. So I was asked to leave, so I left. And I went and stayed in a house with a friend of mine that I used to work for. And basically what I did was I moved in with another drunk. And I tried to stay sober on my own. And they call it white knuckling, you know. So it wasn't working. And so he said to me, you know, I really can't handle you the way that you are, because at that time I was full of anger and hate. And of course it manifested itself in all kinds of things that were going on with me. You know, argumentative, you know, yelling, and just plain grumpy. And so he said, you know, you might want to try Alcoholics Anonymous. And I said, you know about Alcoholics Anonymous? He said, yeah. I go, well, what is it? He said, well, a bunch of drunks get together and they just talk about They just talk about, the problems, and they learn how to not drink. So I went, and I'll never forget the first time I went to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. I went over there, and there's just a bunch of people. It's a big old building, and they're all lined up around. There's just a crowd, and above the crowd is this, like a 5-foot layer of cigarette smoke. And I said to myself, this can't be Alcoholics Anonymous. So I went there, and this one old gentleman saw me. I almost had that look on my face. I'm like, what is this? So he said, how you doing? And I can't tell you his name. But he said, my name's so-and-so. And I said, is this Alcoholics Anonymous? And he said, yeah. And he reached his hand out to shake mine. As soon as we shook hands, he grabbed me. And he took me into the room, and he started introducing me to people around there. So being the good drunk that I was at that time, it was a big old room. And I went and found a corner where I could hide. But you can't hide in Alcoholics Anonymous. Because what they did at this meeting was, before they even started the meeting, they went around the room and they did the first step. Hi, my name's so-and-so, I'm an alcoholic, and my life's unmanageable. And they got her in, and I remember sweating bullets, because they were coming around to me. And when it came to me, I said, I'm an alcoholic, and that was it. I busted into tears. Well, at that first meeting, I heard something that I needed to hear, and it was this little old Pachuco guy, tough little Mexican man, said to me, he said, if you want to get rid of the anger and the hate, just keep coming back. And that's exactly what I wanted to hear, because that's where I was at that time in my life, full of anger and hate. And I had a list of all the people that had done me wrong. And they called it a resentment list. And I got to tell you, you got those people, I had them on trial. Each morning I was putting somebody on trial that did me wrong. And so then I started attending the meetings, and they talked about the 12 steps. And they said that if you just take these steps, it'll make your life better. But you had to get a sponsor. So I went around looking at stuff, and I bumped into Paul. I like Paul. Paul was a real alcoholic. They found him in a motel, and he looked like a guy with AIDS. He drank so much, and I liked him. So I asked him to be my sponsor. And so he tried to get me to do the steps, and I was being stubborn about it. But at the same time, I'm trying to manage my life that's unmanageable my own way. And I got no tools. So one day I was really frustrated, and I came to him whining and crying about all these problems that I was having. He'd been tired of hearing me. He said, Raymond, do you know why you have so many problems? And I said, no. Pride. Why? He said, because you're a jerk. He says, you're unhappy. Well, it's not my fault. And he goes, well, whose fault is it? Well, all these people, if they would just do what they're supposed to do. He said, Raymond, it's you. He said, have you ever noticed that all the problems you have, that you're in the middle of every one of them? So I said, I got mad, and I hit him when he said that. So I walked away, and I got to the car, and I realized that he was right. So I came back, and for the first time in my life, I humbled myself. And I looked down at him, and I said, Paul, you're right. He says, are you ready to do whatever it takes? And I said, man, I'll do whatever you tell me, because I can't take it anymore. Because before I got sober and went to Alcoholics Anonymous, on February 4th at 7 o'clock in the morning, I woke up one more time in the middle of the living room, and I was laying in my vomit. And in the last 3 years of my life, that's what I would do. I would go get a 6-pack, drink it on the way home, and drink my 2-liter bottle of 151, and then pass out, and then wake up and go go to work. Don't ask me how I did it. I don't know. I was amazed that I did it. But I remember sitting on the bed and I was thinking about suicide. And I got scared. Because, if I just would die, all these problems would go away and I wouldn't be a pain in everybody's side, one more time on the pity pot, looking for sympathy. But, so I'm sitting there and my wife noticed me sitting on the corner of the bed and she said, "Are you all right?" I said, "No, I'm not all right." And she said, "Well, it's going to be okay." And I go, "No, it's not going to be okay. I know it's not going to be okay." Because I saw death looking at me. So when I was laying on the floor and I got up, and basically I'm just sitting on the floor looking down, and I remember saying these words, and they were, "God help me." And I remember that something happened to me. And I was feeling a little bit better, but it didn't really take hold until I couldn't take what was going on in the house. So I got in my truck and headed for work. At that time I did have a construction company, so one more time just go to work and work it off. And I remember sitting in the truck, and all of a sudden I felt this warmth come over me, and everything was going to be all right. And I remember telling Paul, as soon as I got home from work, I had to shoot on over to his house and tell him, because I felt good all day. I was in a really good mood. And I wasn't rubbing anybody the wrong way that day. Everybody was like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." And not thinking that, well, what about these other days when we couldn't stand the sight of you, So I went to Paul and told him that, and he said, "That's the Spirit, son." He said, "You've been given a gift." And I didn't realize what kind of a gift that I'd given, And so, just like when I talked about the verse that there, as I've been going through my life these last 30 years, which I might add is that I've been in the furnace for 30 years. I've been being, little by slow, shaped and molded, and I hope that I become the image of Christ. You know what I'm saying? And as I go through all these trials and tribulations, I'm trying to be like Paul. Rejoice that I'm in these trials and tribulations. So all these things that I'm learning through Scripture now, because I didn't have a lot of Scripture going on then, but Alcoholics Anonymous is a spiritual thing, and they do talk about God. But it's a God of our own understanding, It's not like the God of the Word. So I remember going through the steps and hesitating on it and everything, and Paul was fit to be tied about taking those steps. And he said, "Raymond, I know your ex-wife is making you unhappy." He said, "Would you like to get even with her?" And man, my eyes lit up when he said that. And I said, "Yeah, I sure would. What do I got to do?" He said, "We're going to take those steps, and you're going to get so happy you're going to make her miserable." But that's not what happened. But we did start the steps. So like it says there in step 1, that we admitted that we were alcoholics and that our lives are unmanageable. That's kind of hard to do when you're a control freak. Because let me tell you, I had it going on. And then it says, come to believe. Step 2, came to believe. And I did. I started to believe. But see, I got some history. I was a Catholic. And all I ever heard was that this God is going to take me and burn me forever. So he's going to torture me for all the wrongs that I did. So I remember, I was a kid. And I said, you know what? I'm the heck with it. I'm just going to go ahead and do what I'm doing. And you look where it got me. Got me in a whole lot of trouble, a whole lot of pain, almost killed me. So the third step is very special to me because it says, became willing to turn my life and my will over to the care of God. That's a big deal for me because, like I said, my pride tells me that I can manage all on my own. But Scripture doesn't say that at all. It says that it's through Christ who strengthens me. That's Philippians 4:13. I know that now. I didn't know it then. So I started taking the steps. Then we come to the fourth step. Take a personal inventory. That's a moral inventory, a sexual inventory, and then a physical inventory, like stealing and stuff like that. Because I was in a room full of liars, cheats, and thieves. We were all trying to help each other stay sober and to become better people in the world. We were trying to fit in society instead of being different. But it's kind of hard to do being an alcoholic, because the very thread that runs through every alcoholic is defiance. And those two guys constantly were working on to have reliance, not defiance. Believe me, I gave him a hard time all the way till I surrendered. I used to hear things like this: Raymond, surrender to win, buddy. No, man, I'm going to go down and fight. Because that's the way I was raised, to be a fighter. And so, once again, in Scripture, it's the same thing. It keeps telling me to trust in God. And if I do, if I truly do what He says, I will be blessed. He tells me, if you love me, you will obey my commandments. So every time I break a commandment, what am I saying? I'm saying, I don't love you, God. I don't love you, Jesus. And I want to get to the point that where it hurts so bad because I know what I'm doing is wrong. Then I'll stop. I won't be that alcoholic, the king alcoholic mind that I have, that keeps doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, right? Yeah, they call that insanity. Well, here I am. My picture's in the dictionary under there, So then, okay, now, got all this down on paper. Now here comes the true test, the fifth step. I had to get together with my sponsor, me, God, and him, and tell him all those things. And out of all of that we were told, we were going to be able to make a character defect list, which is step 6, shortcoming list, which is step 7. And then we were going to do 8, became willing to make amends wherever possible. And there are some amends you can't take, because there are amends that you can't make to another individual that's going to hurt them, just so I could, once again, use my selfishness so I could feel better. No. That's the one I got to swallow and go through it. So, and then step 9, go and do those amends that the list that we made. That's me and Paul went over all of that. We went over my character defects, and that's how I found out that my glaring one was pride and ego. And out of those 2 there, that is the fertilizer that causes me to have the 7 digits. I can't round them, I can't say what they are, but they grow. They got ugly heads and they want to show themselves, So now I was told that I make these amends, financial amends, I make those wherever possible. And I think in Scripture, there's making restitution, right, for financial amends. So I did that. One of them that I had was, I didn't even really think about it, but it came to me, and that's God working in my life. I was doing cabinets, making cabinet shop, and I had a guy that did a top for me, charged me $100. I never paid him. And in doing the inventory, that came out. So I went and I saw him. I found him. He had moved. And once again, God worked for me too. I was able to find him. So I went. And one of the things that Paul told me that we make our amends eyeball to eyeball. There's no texting. There's no calling on the phone. It's eyeball to eyeball. And you know why? Because this boy needs to eat humble pie. And maybe you won't do it again when you do that. But I got to tell you, every amend that I ever made eyeball to eyeball was great. I mean, and the freedom that you get from all that baggage that you carry around. I got so happy and joyous around there that I was obnoxious. And one of the old timers there said, Raymond, I really liked you when you first came here because you never said a word. He says, now we can't shut you up. Oh my golly. So I went and paid that $100, and the guy looked at me and he said, I can't believe you're here. I said, believe? He goes, thank you. I said, no, thank you. He said, man, this has been a weight on my mind, and I'm so glad to give it to you. I'm done. Thank you. And as I did each amends, it got better and better. I felt better and all that. It's amazing how, in God's world, how it works, and all these things that go on, you know. Probably there's a health message in all of that too. You know what I'm saying? No more stress and strife over. You don't have to lie anymore. Think about it. Yeah, didn't have to lie anymore. So, but like I said, I got obnoxious, and there was a thing that was talked about. It was called cash register honesty. I felt pretty confident with that one because I'd never reached into a drawer and taken any money out of it, and I can't remember how it came out, but I guess I was conveying that I was doing pretty good. I guess when it was covered, self-righteousness was glaring. He get around them old timers. Old Leroy Henry. I love Leroy Henry. Now, he was my grand sponsor and Paul was my sponsor. Now they're both gone. But I got to tell you, they're here. And every so often, there's things that come up, and I can hear them talking to me. You know, it was either my name was Raymond or Boy. So, boy, we don't do those things. Boy, we don't live that way. So I'm feeling kind of cocky, and we were at a meeting, and I was so proud that I'd never reached in the drawer. And Leroy Henry said, boy. I said, yes, sir. He said, Raymond, you are the worst thief in this room. And I was appalled that he could say that to me like that. And I said, what do you mean? He said, Raymond, you stole people's happiness. Oh, man, that hit me hard. And I knew right then and there, I mean, he was correct. And I felt so bad. So in the big book, it talks about being brought to the right size. I think I was about that tall. But I knew he was right. And I remember, I can't remember exactly when, but I remember one time laying in my bed and praying to God. And I said, man, but if it's possible, I don't ever want to take away another person's happiness in my life. I had done enough. You know, my family members didn't want anything to do with me. I was stealing their happiness. I stole my ex-wife's happiness. I stole my children's happiness because I was such a mean drunk. You know, they feared me. So I'm just grateful that I don't do that anymore. I got to tell you about those kids. They actually let me come over and visit. Isn't that awesome? I can come anytime I want and see my grandchildren. I love my grandbabies. Oh yeah, but I suffer from being a dad. So when I'm around the grandkids, I don't treat them like a regular grandparent. When they break a rule, I say something. I'm known as Grandpa Rule. So, but it's all in love and stuff. And you know, one of the things that happens now is that, and I never said this. I never said I love you to my children. But we say I love you to each other all the time. You know, that's God. It's all about God. So make the amends, and then how do you keep yourself in check? The next step. It says you do a daily inventory. And when you're wrong, promptly admit it. Don't hang on to it. So kind of goes along with this. You empty that vessel. That's how you keep the 7 other spirits from coming back in a bigger and better force. So yeah, you admit you're wrong. Keep it at bay, you know. Can't remember the level right off the top of my head. It says here, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understand Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Once again, Philippians 4:13. I love it. Now we come to step 12. And it says here, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, We try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So the key word, practice. So what do they say about practice? Practice makes perfect. So with the grace of God, always asking for forgiveness, practicing these things that I read in Scripture. It should be there. It should be in there. That's a promise. I do. Provided that I love my Lord. And remember that I love my Lord and I don't want to break his heart. Well, I was sober about 5 years. And my mother was in the hospital. And I never really talked too much about my child because it wasn't that good. One of the things that I never received when we were kids was we had two words that we knew well: shut up and stupid. And those words, when I got married, I had a request. I said, we don't say those two words in the house. You know, because I was always hearing, you're too stupid to do this, you'll never learn anything. And shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. So I treated my kids different. I wanted to hear what they had to say. And so, but one of the things that we never heard when we were kids was, I love you. And it had a big effect on all of us. So, and to this day, it still has an effect on some of my siblings. I have a brother who died of alcoholism. I have a sister that has COPD. That's from all the drug abuse. You know, her time's limited. You know. So it doesn't stop. It just keeps going. There's another thing in Scripture that talks about that, third and the fourth generation. You know, sins of the father. And I'm just always amazed at this reading the Word, just relating it to my life, going, wow. You know, and so she's in the hospital, and she had an emergency surgery. And being the good drunk that she was, anytime she had an ailment, she figured if she took a nap, it would go away. So consequently, she almost died from appendicitis. She had to have her gallbladder removed. And this time, from all the drinking that she did, she had an ulcer in her intestine and it perforated her bowel. So they had to go in there and correct the perforation, and then they had to do constructive surgery, but then the word is septic, if I recall. She got septic. So what had happened was, I called her, and she answered the phone, and she had just been out of surgery for a little while. And I called her and I said, Mom, how are you doing? And that's one of my amends that I made to my mother. Paul told me that, which is, we honor our mother and our father. There's no stipulations if they do this or if they do that. So I tried to honor my mother as best I could. So I tried to become the son that I was when I was a little kid. You know, Mother's Day, birthdays, Christmas, all those things. Always calling her, always seeing how she's doing and stuff. So now she's there, and she answered the phone, and I said, how you doing? And she said, I'm doing okay. And we talked for like just a few seconds, and she said, son, I'm very tired and I gotta get off the phone. And I just want to tell you that I love you. And those were the last words I heard. That was a gift from God. When it came to my dad, it was hard for me with my father. And I don't want anything bad thought about him, but he was a very strict father. And unbeknownst to me, my back was broken 9 places from the things that he reprimanded me for. And I also suffered 2 concussions when I was a little kid. and that was for disobeying. But a funny thing happened to me when I was doing the steps, because at 12 years old I hadn't had contact with my father. Now I'm 33, and he's chewing on me. I don't know why, but I got to see my dad. Don't know why I got to see my dad, but I got it. And I know where he lives, so I managed to call him. I didn't go see him at the house. I met him at Danny's at a public place, because I didn't know what I was going to do. You know, I don't know if I was going to freak out, grab him, whatever, but I went. And surprisingly, none of that happened. This is what came out of my mouth. Because he asked me, he said, "What do you want?" He goes, "I don't know, I need money." I said, "Dad, I don't want money. I just want to know if it's possible for you and I to have a relationship." And he's in total shock now. And he said, "Yes, you can if that's what you want." I said, "I really want that." Because I had this empty place in my heart. I was missing something besides God. So he said, "We can do it." And I said, "Great." And the next thing I hear is, "But I got a request." And then I said, "What did I do to myself?" I got in fear. But he shocked me. He said, "Is it possible for you to call me once in a while?" Yes, I can. And I got to tell you, it was tough getting to know that man, because I was that man. I had his personality 100%. I looked in the mirror in an older version, you know, and my sponsor kept telling me, pray for him. Well, I don't know how to pray, because I keep praying for him to get what he deserves. He goes, "No, son, you don't pray for what, you pray for acceptance. Keep praying for acceptance." So I did. And little by little, with the grace of God, one more time, I learned to love that man. We're best friends. And that guy tells me, "I love you, son. Thanks for calling." Too much. Too much. So, the 12 step says, now that you've done all of this and you've got the freedom, you've got to go and share it. You know? Don't we have a three angels message that we're supposed to be sharing? Isn't that awesome? So, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. You know? Alcoholics Anonymous for me was a stepping stone and a preparation for me. No more on the milk. Time to get with the meat. Yeah. So that's where I'm headed, going in that direction. So that's where I'm at today for me. If there's anybody that's got a problem like I have, I want to talk to them. I want to tell them my story. I want to let them know that there is a way out. You don't have to live in that craziness, you know. It says in the big book, it says, we have recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. And how do you do that? We empty the tank and put Jesus in there. And that's all I've done. You know, ain't no big complicated thing. That's all I've done. In the morning, I ask for him to empty me out, to be in me, so that his light shines. And if there's a job that I need to do, a person I need to talk to, I go, you know how I am. You got to pull on my ear a little or something. So, you know, I overshoot the runway still to this day. You know, but I got to tell you one thing. You don't want to ask me about God in the supermarket, because I start preaching. And I know that I do that. I go, I got to stop. Because I've got a lady friend that's reading the book, and she's always asking. Here I go. I start preaching. I go, I got to stop. We're not getting any work done. So, because that's what it says in the book too. That whatever we do, we're supposed to do is for the Lord. The same goes with eating and drinking. You know? So that's what I'm doing. And I was in California for a long time. I was getting tired of being in California. I saw the changes, the same-sex marriages. It looks like they're making the law so that criminals got more rights than a regular person. Just they want to remove God from everything in California. And so I asked God to help me get out of it. And wouldn't you know it, a friend of mine called me up and said, Raymond, I know you want to get out of California. I told her, yeah, I do. And she says, well, we bought a farmhouse in Franklinton, Louisiana, and we need somebody to take care of the 20 acres. Would you be willing to do that rent-free? I said, yeah. And it was right after Katrina that I went. So I lived in this, I think it was for 12 years, I lived in a 4,200 square foot house all by myself. And me and the dogs, that's who I kept company with. But I started going to Alcoholics Anonymous there, and I'm noticing it now, and my son who's in Alcoholics Anonymous told me that it's changing because now the drugs have gotten into Alcoholics Anonymous, and there's little by slow, God is being pushed away. And so, once again, God saved me from myself. I love it. So, Larry comes into my life. And Larry's a Baptist preacher. So I meet him, and I was going back and forth gathering stuff at the little hardware store, fixing up little things at the farmhouse and stuff. And the lady that owned it came out to my house. She knew where I live. That's the way they are over there. They know where everybody lives and who's everybody. Stay away from that person. Don't trust that person. I'll tell her that story. But anyway, she came out and she said, I think God put you in my life, and I want to know if you would like a part-time job at the hardware store. And I said, are you kidding? She goes, no. She goes, it would be a great opportunity for you to get to know folks in town. And that's how I got to meet Larry. She introduced me to Larry. The funny thing is, there was something peculiar about Larry, and I knew it. So he was getting ready to leave, and I walked out and I said, Larry, hang on a second, I need to talk to you. I said, I don't know why, but I'm drawn to you. And he goes, well, why is that? I said, you're not an alcoholic, are you? And he said, yes, and by the grace of God, I'm not an alcoholic anymore. I said, amen, brother. I said, this is supposed to be. So, being that I was a Catholic, and I left the church because of that brimstone stuff, he invited me to church. So I went. And I liked it. I started going to the Baptist church. And I remember him one day we were talking, and he talked about being baptized. And I said, I've already been baptized. And he was an ex-Catholic. He was a Catholic too before he became a Baptist preacher. And he said, no, you weren't baptized. And I said, yeah, I was. He said, no, that's not baptism. He says, it's in the book. Well, the construction industry fell flat on his face in Louisiana. And I needed a job now. So my brain said, I'll be a truck driver. So, and I did. I became a truck driver. So I went to school for 90 days, and then I went and I drove with the guy which was my mentor for another 90 days or longer if I needed it. And I took the book with me. And every spare moment I read that Bible. And guess what? I got to the part where Jesus is in the Jordan. And John the Baptist says, behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world. And then he says to him, all right, he tells him, baptize me. And he says, I shouldn't be baptized. I can't even untie your shoes. Just baptize me. I realized I'm paraphrasing. So he did it. And what happened? The sky opened up. This is my son, whom I am well pleased. Love it. And I knew right then and there, Raymond, you got to get baptized. So went to school, came back, and they picked me up. Larry said that, and it was a 2.5-hour drive from the bus depot to the house. Yeah, because in Louisiana, everything's far away. So I lived down in Boonies. There, no cell service either. It was out there either. So, but we're driving home, and he said to me, he said, you know, Raymond, this was sometime later. He said, you know that ride home that we had? He said, the only thing you talked about was God. Do you realize that's what you did? I go, no, I didn't even realize I was saying it. So, but I did tell him one thing, Larry, I need to get baptized. So we went over the things about being baptized and you know, wanted to make sure that I had my head on right. So I got baptized. And I got to tell you, that was one of the best things I ever did for myself. And the reason why is because when I went down and in the water, and I came back up, and I realized what had happened, that every sin was forgiven, and I had a new start on life. You know, I got to tell you though, that, hey, I still goofed up along the way, but the thing that the big deal was is that I got to make that decision. It wasn't made for me, and this time it was real. And it's been a little by slow process, learning how to show my love to God and do the right thing and all that stuff. So I'm there 12 years. And I remember, since I've always had two people in my life to account for, I asked two guys at church if they would be accountable, make me accountable for myself. One was Larry and the other one was Gary. Well, that's wrong. I didn't mean it to do that way, but I remember Larry saying, so that means that no matter what we ask you, you're going to do. I said, yeah, Larry, because I want this more than anything else, or I can't have anything else. I just laid a little AA on it. So he said, all right. And wouldn't you know it? Like a month later, because they said that something had happened to me after I got baptized. So I'm into the Word, going to Bible study, and an opening came. The person that did the seniors Bible study was had to be taken to a retirement home. So those two guys said, well, Gary started it. Gary told Larry that, I think it'd be a good idea if Raymond did Bible study. And I remember Larry came up to me, and Gary, they did, well, we would like you to do the Bible study. And I go, are you sure you want this guy to do the Bible study? And Larry goes, you're just perfect for the Bible study. You know, because I was green. And so, but I took it serious. I said, okay, I'll do it. You asked me, I'll do it. And that meant that, and I knew that I had to show up on time, that I had to be fully prepared for every lesson that was in that book. That meant reading and reading and reading and more reading, you know, and it was awesome. I cut my teeth on Hebrews. That's what I call it, cutting my teeth. I cut it on Hebrews. And if I remember right, this is one of the scriptures in Hebrews that touched me. It was Hebrews 5:14. It says here, but strong meat belongeth to them that are of full age. Like I told you, I've been little by slow in the furnace, being weaned off of milk. Even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. And I love that because for me, that's a promise. If I stay with it, if I diligently search God's Word, I will learn good from evil. And what happens when you learn good from evil? You learn how to turn from evil. Learn how to despise evil. And that's what I want. I want to learn all of that. Because I don't want to live no longer where I'm the same as everybody else. I want to stick out. I want to be peculiar. I don't want to be stiff-necked. You know, I've done that. I did that for a while. It don't pay. So now, I've been doing the Bible study. I'm doing the reading, praying, and all of a sudden, this thought starts coming into my head. And I start seeing myself preaching. Now, the funny thing happened. When I was baptized, Larry said, wouldn't it be funny if Raymond wanted to be a preacher? And I said, no, dude, there's no way in the world I would do it. But that thought would not leave me alone. Every time in the morning when I got up to sit at the table and read scripture and pray and all that, I kept thinking, being called to preach, being called to preach. And I remember talking to him, and I told him, Lord, I'm too old to preach. You got to remember now, I'm 60 years old. And he's asking, that's not it. Well, finally I broke down and I said, I'll do it. So I went to Larry and I went to Gary. I told him, I know this is going to sound weird, but I think I'm being called to preach. And I mean, those guys were like ecstatic. Wow. So then, little by slow, I got one here, one there, one, and I enjoy it. And I hope to do it again. And to keep on doing it. I like talking about my God. I want to share Him with everybody that I can. Put a little light on some of this darkness that's running around all over the place. So then a crazy idea came into my head. Well, if I was going to be a preacher, I didn't want to be kind of a hypocrite. I thought that I should be married to be a preacher. And I remember one of my friends from church goes, why do you want to do that? I go, because I think I should. So now we're looking at 28 years. I've been a single guy, and that was partially from my mind. So I got on eHarmony, and I read a whole lot of profiles. Nothing. But then there was this one out of East Texas. That's what it said, East Texas. It didn't say where in East Texas, but it was what she said. And I looked at her and I said, well, that's not my style. And I told her, I go, you're not my style. It's what's inside. It's driving me nuts. So we corresponded, and I got to tell you, that woman can write some emails, man, 2, 3, 4 pages.
You asked me about my God.
And your God, and I asked you about your faith, and I was dumb. I said, wow. So I had to meet her. And she in turn, she had to meet me. And so we met in Alexandria, Louisiana, because that separated us about in the middle. And our first meeting, she was busy doing a girl thing, looking at clothes and all that stuff. And I came up behind her, not even thinking. I said, hello. She turned around and looked at me, and it was instantaneous for both of us. And the more we talked that day, we didn't want to stop talking, and we had so much in common and all this stuff. And now that we're married, I get to live with her. It's even better now. So right now we're doing a fluctuating schedules. So, but the thing is the main thing is the love is there, God is there, and one of the things that we said when we were together was that He will always be first. Then it's each of us. So we pray together, and that means that we will stay together. So like I said last week, I take those wedding vows very seriously. So I try every day to love her as Christ loved the church. And I got to tell you, sometimes the old Ray wants to get up and say, no. But I turn around and go, yes, whatever you want me to do, Lord. So now I'm here, and I'm getting bored, and I'm getting tired of digging up trees in the yard. Because your trees here, they go deep. and their work getting them out of the ground. Try to get a mimosa out of the house, out of the ground. Don't let a root go into the house, because you'll be digging that up too. But so I needed a little getaway from the house deal, so I got a part-time job at Brookshire's. And now all of this is going on. Larry had told me, he said, because they were concerned that her and I were not equally yoked. You know, and I found out that that's one of the statutes. That's kind of cool. I mean, because I was always wondering precepts, statutes. You know, what is all this? So, and I always felt that we were equal. So, cute little story about the Seventh-day Adventist deal. But it started with, we knew that it was getting serious for us, and we were leaning on getting married. And so she asked me a question about the commandments. And she asked me to read the commandments. So I thought, all right, so I did. Came to remember. I read that one. I'm going to ask me questions about it. So I said to her, when is the Sabbath? She said, Saturday. I said, then why are we doing this thing on Sunday? Well, now I know that it was a Roman thing, that they're still carrying it all the way through till today about that. And so I went to my church, and they tried to explain to me that when Christ died on the cross, and that's when it ended the Sabbath. And I go, how can that be? I go, I remember in the lesson plan, not one jot or tittle will change. I go, the word never changes. Only we change. They didn't want to hear it. So she gave me the books, and I passed them around. I was hoping to get some kind of deal. Gary read it. He said, it's a good idea. That's all I got out of him. Larry read it, didn't have no comment. One of my friends, Tammy, read it. She got halfway through it. She gave me back the book. She didn't want to finish it. Another one, Suzanne, read it, and she gave me a 5-page report on that and how we'll not stop sinning. And I remember telling her, so if we're not able to stop sinning, then what good is Philippians 4:13? And oh, by the way, Suzanne, isn't that your favorite scripture? She said, yeah. Well, into that conversation. So, and that's what I'm stuck with. But I want to go and stand in front of that church and talk about the Sabbath and see what happens. If it's God's will.
Larry did say he could be wrong.
I don't remember that.
He said we could be wrong.
That means they're wrong. If he said it could be, it's there. I don't know if it's germinating, but it's there.
See?
So I go to Brookshire's to get a part-time job. And I said, but I come with a glitch. And Mr. Brown said, what's the glitch? And remember, I was making a decision on whether I was going to be Seventh-day Adventist. And out of my mouth says, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, and I have to have the Sabbath off. Couldn't believe I said it. Here it was. I was vacillating between them. I was trying to find something wrong with you guys. You know? Well, I mean, just being the wacko that I am. So I couldn't do it. Couldn't find anything wrong. And he said, not a problem. I said, this has got to be God again. So when I go to work, I know that there's somebody, something that, you know, I'm going to say or whatever. But, so here I am. So now I've changed from I'm Raymond Lopez, an alcoholic, to I'm Raymond Lopez, the Seventh-day Adventist. And I remember the Sabbath. And I love my Lord Jesus and His Father. And I will do everything in my power not to break their hearts. I'm going to close with this. And it's a story that touched me, and I just want to share it with you. It's in John. Is it John? Okay. I'm going to paraphrase. He went to Canaan, and he was invited to a wedding. And And in the wedding, they ran out of wine. So his mother came to him because they were invited too. And I didn't realize it, but Jesus and all his disciples were invited to that wedding. So she comes up to him and she says, you know, they don't have any wine. And he replies, it is not my time yet. That's what he says. And he walks away. So she says to the servants, whatever he tells you, do. And that spoke to me. Whatever he tells you, do. But there's another thing that's in there. There's a commandment that he honored. He did make those jugs into wine. Because even though that he said what he said, he honored his mother and went ahead and did it. And I saw that. See this health message that says if you get away from sugar, get away from meat, your brain will get clearer. And when it happened, I don't think if I was still on it, I don't think I would have saw that. See, that's another promise. Promises for me are being fulfilled left and right. So, but first of all, I don't want to get obnoxious and happy. You know what I'm saying? I want to go to heaven, so I got to be humble. Yes, I am. I'm happy with you. Thank you very much. And I'm going to conclude with that. And so I hope that I was able to show you that through my life, I've come to know that he loves me. And it's caused me to love him with all my heart and all my soul and all my strength. I think that's awesome. So, thank you very much. I love you and have a happy Sabbath.